How's it going? Thralls Metal here again with another album review. I'm Necrotic Nick.
And I'm Jammin John.
And this week we're reviewing one that came out last month, but we never got to. But this is kind of a blind review because neither one of us had actually listened to the band before.
Never heard of him.
We are reviewing Imprecation's Damnatio Ad Bestias, which translates to Condemnation of All Beasts. This came out in 2019 in Dark Descent in March 22nd, I believe. So, flew well under the radar. I'd heard the band's name before, but I'd never actually jammed the music. So, we're going to get into them. They are a death metal band from Missouri City, Texas. They formed in the 90s and then broke up in 98 and then reformed just as recently as 2009 and come up with their second full length in that many years. A lot of EPs and splits and such.
Right.
But yeah, let's get into this shit.
For sure. I dug it. I really dug it. Very death doomy feel. Reminded me, really old school death metal. Reminded me of Morbid Angel, like early Morbid Angel, Incantation, Obituary, some Cannibal Corpse moments as far as like Chug was concerned.
It's very atmospheric too, like a lot of tremolo melodies thrown in there that takes a page from black metal here and there, but it never goes full black metal at any point. Like it stays very firmly planted in death metal.
Yep.
And very, very blasphemic too in the lyrical sense, of course, and the song titles and such. So it really takes a page out of bands like Incantation in terms of that. Definitely the Death Doom parts I really appreciate it because it breaks up just the wall of blast that sometimes death metal can get too much into. There were definitely some parts in here that reminded me especially of earlier Amorphous, very much like the Carillion Isthmus, their first full-length album. It has kind of that Finnish death metal sound, which they like to incorporate a lot of doomier elements in there that I really dug. Some certain songs that were super strong on there.
The title track, first of all, was huge. Had a huge sound to it. Really creepy keyboard opening. I remember that. And then let's state too, there is some light keyboard on here. Fits perfectly.
Yeah.
In a lot of moments.
It's not overbearing. It's used to accentuate moments.
Yeah. But very, very creepy keyboard riff over it. It just felt kind of evil and just dirty.
Like I thought of like 1970s Italian horror movies and shit like that.
Lucio Fulci, right?
Or even like John Carpenter too.
Yep.
But it really works to set up that song really well. And then it closes really nice with a big chuggy fucking part with the cool tremolo riffing too. And this one definitely had the Incantation vibe that I dig so much.
When as far as that chuggy riffing was used really well too to break up that tremolo part. Like it could have just droned on, but they found an interesting way to break up the riffs with just this little like short.
Yep.
This little short like syncopated like triplet chug thing that broke it up.
Yeah, and it was one of those moments you just kind of perked up. I was like, wait, what was that? That was really cool. Like you really accentuated that moment right there.
Yep.
Baptized in Satan's Blood was another one I really liked. And instead of the keyboard intro, it had a keyboard outro that was once again fiercely in the vein of horror movies and such.
It had like this like creepy like chant kind of weird voices thing. Like if you listen to it in the dark, you might actually conjure something. Not sure.
It's like, don't listen to this alone in your apartment with your cat. I don't know how you live.
Who are we to judge how you live?
Another thing I really liked was the lead work. It is very much in the vein of like a Trey Azagoth meets Jeff Hanneman.
Yep.
It gets wild and fucking crazy like Azagoth, like who's try to fit him in a box in terms of his style of guitar.
Right. It wasn't like this like catchy melodic like solo that you could really grasp onto. It just sounds like again listening to
evil,
Yeah.
pure evil. But it also had those like tasteful, like kind of creepy but still melodic tones that Jeff Hanneman from Slayer generated. And I mean, that guy is such an influential guitarist in metal period that it's really cool to hear that. Another thing I really liked was the production on this was really solid. It has a very live feel to it.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like if you ever see these guys live, I don't know if we're ever gonna see them, but I mean, if we ever see these guys live, it feels like what you get on the album is probably exactly what you're gonna get live, just probably louder.
Yes,
So,
yes. And maybe more Satan.
Yep, yep.
The big standout, the one that I absolutely loved and he fucking loved
Yeah,
too,
both of us.
The Shepherd and the Flock.
Just this nasty, like chuggy off-time riff. I remember just at times I think we both looked at each other and just went like.
That's one of the heaviest things I've heard this year, and I've listened to a lot of heavy shit.
For sure.
Like it really just like I like how that moment moves into like this tremolo doomy part too, but it keeps that same interesting off-time pattern to it, and like each moment is just punctuated. Like it is just heavy. Yep. Heavy as fuck.
I would go back and listen to that song over and over again. To be honest, it was a really good jam. I had a really good time.
Now, there were some things that I didn't like on this album. One of them on the song Dagger, Thurible, Altar of Death. That's both commas in between there. It started off really well. It has like a very obituary-esque opening, a big, simple, nasty, dark-sounding riff.
Yep.
And then it kind of kept with that feel, and I really liked it. And it just threw in these unnecessary blast beats. Like, at that moment, it was like, okay, this has been a nice standout track, but this is clearly the more doomy mid-tempo one. And it just kind of threw in, it just felt kind of forced on those parts. The other thing I can knock it on is, while some of the moments with the keyboards are really good, they really, like,
and
lift
they really fit
the moment. Yeah.
There are moments where it appears where you're just like, come on.
Like where a lead guitar melody over top would have been more tasteful. Instead, it sounds like these cheesy keyboards.
Or some sort of like guitar related, just like dissonance, like some like open tone you could have done instead of incorporating in a key. I mean, really, you know, I guess if you're gonna have a keyboard player and you don't want him to be bored, you give him a moment to shine. But this was not the time.
No, it was too open of a moment where you hear the keyboards a little too prevalently, and it kind of moves from something creepy and atmospheric to something maybe more cheesy.
But I will state again, it doesn't appear in the whole record. Like you don't, the keyboard is not something you really latch onto except maybe in a song or two. But it's not so prevalent that it ruins the overall tone of the album.
No, like most of this is great. It's just a certain couple of moments that stand out. Like, maybe no here.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I just don't want to throw it out and be like, well, there were keyboards in the album, so fuck it. No, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. But it just, again, there are moments where they appear and you're like, nah.
Yeah. I thought the snare was a little plunky in some spots. Like, I'm not a big fan of the brutal death snare.
I'm not either.
It drives me nuts because it just harks me back to listening to Saint Anger for the first time and going, ugh. But it only really gets overbearing when it's like a predominant blast beat. Like sometimes you hear it more on some tracks than others.
Right.
So it's more of a minor knock against it.
And it could have just been a variance in mixing. You know, I'm in a band myself, and when mixing the album, you don't always get that full tone, that full, you know, what you want, that consistency of things.
But it's nice hearing, like, you know, those little nuances in there that let, you know, remind you, like, you know, these guys were definitely just jamming this out in the studio and just going for that raw feel, which is really cool in death metal. That's something I prefer in death metal. Now, overall, I'd give this one 3.5 stars. I think this is a pretty solid release. It's awesome to see these guys back in action after such a long hiatus. And
yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I'll definitely check out this band again. I'll definitely listen to this release again.
And 3.5 is also where I'm sitting. Not the creme de la creme or the tip top of albums, but definitely a great jam. I had a good time listening to it, especially having never heard these guys and having this be my first introduction to this band.
Yeah.
As far as a second album release is concerned, cool. Now, granted, it took them 10 years to release it, and hopefully it doesn't take them another 10 years to release one, but sometimes it takes a minute for bands to pick up steam.
You know, I'm eager to check out their other stuff, too. Yeah, that's surely the sure sign that I like a band is I want to find more of their stuff.
Sure.
If it's not uber expensive and out of print, that could be tough.
I mean, if anything, I'll find it on Spotify, but I mean, you know, we're going to look for the album for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you like this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, definitely sub us. We keep doing reviews all the time.
Yeah.
And we will catch you later.